Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Ball, the YouTube channel where we discuss big picture NBA. In today's episode, we'll be looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves. After last season started in turmoil with the Jimmy Butler trade situation, the season ended up not being too bad, however they still ended in the lottery. They still have a great young building block in Karl-Anthony Towns. So where are they going to go this offseason? Well, as always, I have 3 previews for you. 1 best case scenario, 1 worst case scenario, and 1 more likely scenario. On this episode of The Offseason, Minnesota Timberwolves edition. Minnesota Timberwolves are a perfect picture example of what happens to a franchise when you try to win before you're ready. They had Karl-Anthony Towns and thought, hey, screw it, let's go out and get Jimmy Butler. As we've seen, that trade didn't quite work out as planned, as Jimmy Butler went insane on the entire team and Tom Thibodeau ended up getting fired. So where are they going to go from here? They need to just try to build around Karl-Anthony Towns. Don't worry about Andrew Wiggins, just build around Karl-Anthony Towns. So what's the best case scenario for this to happen? Well, for starters, they have to draft Brandon Clark. He's a guy whose combine didn't really help him or hurt him. He had outrageous athleticism, however his 6'8" wingspan that matches his height didn't seem to help a guy who's supposed to be a defensive stud. However, his production is too good to be ignored. He averaged 4.1 blocks per 36 minutes this past season, which is just outrageous. He is the perfect guy to unlock Karl-Anthony Towns. Cat's just not that great of a rim protector, but he's a fantastic offensive player who could really use a guy who's playing off ball to come around and protect that backside for him. This combination would remind me a lot of a three-point shooting version of Amari Stoudemire and Shawn Marion. That worked out pretty well, however, they also had Steve Nash. Jeff Teague is no Steve Nash. This isn't a slight towards Jeff Teague, well, maybe it is a little bit, but he's fine and all, but he's not the same guy he was in Atlanta. And when you're paying a guy $19 million, you expect top-level production. He is on an expiring contract this year, and they might be able to move him along with Dario Saric or something like that to get a point guard that they can use in the future. Personally, I think that Lonzo Ball is only going to be worse and worse as he stays in LA and stays under LeBron's shadow. He's overall just not the kind of player you want with LeBron, a playmaker who can't really shoot. He's great defensively, but he needs to be on another team. This is why I suggest that they might be able to do something with picks and whatnot, but mainly it would send Robert Covington to the Lakers and send Lonzo Ball to Minnesota. It's also possible that Minnesota could just be an outlying third team that would take on Lonzo Ball. If you have Lonzo Ball's playmaking ability to go along with the athleticism in this front court, all you need to do is plug in some shooting wings and you have yourself a pretty good team. And Andrew Wiggins doesn't look like he's going to be what everybody expected when he was taken with the number 1 overall pick, so hopefully he can help unlock him as well. I would also try to figure out a way to get rid of Dieng's contract, but I don't see that happening. He's owed way too much money for how minimal production he provides. So what is their worst case scenario? Worst thing that can happen for them is that they don't draft Brandon Clark. It's not difficult, don't overthink it. He helps make Cat the best player he can be. Just draft the guy. Don't try to build around Andrew Wiggins and Karl-Anthony Towns. You should only be building around the Cat. You can't build around Wiggins. I know he's owed $25 million, but the guy's just not living up to the promise of that number 1 pick. Brandon Clark does not help you build around Andrew Wiggins, but he does help you build around Cat. One of the other things that can happen is that they literally go into next season with the exact same team, except you added 1 player from the draft. They need to make some moves and set up this team to not win this next year, but try to win in maybe a couple of years. Your window's not quite there yet. The win now thing is not for you guys. The Jimmy Butler trade proved that. You gave up Zach LaVine and a good draft pick, but you could have taken Dennis Smith or Lauri Markkanen, and you could have paired up those guys, but instead you decided to trade and get Jimmy Butler, and that did not end up well. It's because you weren't ready to win. So what is their most likely scenario? I do see them taking Brandon Clark. I have him being taken by Minnesota in my mock draft. However, I don't see them ending up with Lonzo Ball. I don't see them really trading off a whole lot of players. The guy who I see they could trade away would be Dario Saric. He's very inexpensive, and he still produces off the bench as a good 4 but with a team without a rim protector, he's not the kind of guy you want. So what do you see happening with the Minnesota Timberwolves this offseason? How do they break out of this mediocrity? Also be on the lookout for a mock draft episode that I plan on doing, as well as my Los Angeles Lakers offseason episode. And like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.